Every NATO summit will be dominated by the same issue from the beginning of Russia's invasion of Ukraine until it is over. How can the alliance cooperate with Kiev to win the war? That was true of the special conference in Belgium that was organized for that purpose and called a month after the start of the war. It held true for the yearly meeting in Spain in 2022, and it will continue through the summit in Lithuania in 2023. However, as time goes on and Western supporters of Ukraine come to terms with the fact that full membership is unlikely to occur anytime soon, the conversation has recently shifted to EU membership as a close substitute, citing analogous collective security provisions in the European Union Treaty. But is it a suitable replacement? Today we'll discuss the obstacles to Ukraine joining NATO, the justification for the EU as a substitute, and why it simply isn't the same, even though EU membership is unquestionably preferable to nothing. We will eventually find out why Ukraine views this as NATO or bust. But the specifics are more nuanced than those NATO entry barriers for Ukraine. Let's begin with the Ukrainian NATO obstacles. The issue can be divided into two issues, one that directly relates to the North Atlantic Treaty and one that is based on broad NATO working policy. Article 10 of the treaty, which mandates unanimous consent for the admission of new members, is the source of the rule-based issue. The main conclusion is that, as Sweden is all too aware of, each and every one of these nations may prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. Although there are some peculiar grounds for Turkey's obstruction to Sweden's entry, we're looking at PKK, this essentially means that Turkey must approve of Ukraine, or the process would stall. Of course, Turkey has attempted to act as a mediator throughout the conflict and doesn't appear especially interested in doing otherwise. However, we shouldn't wholly blame Turkey for any delays. In the hallways of NATO's Brussels headquarters, there is a general lack of trust toward Ukraine. NATO standardized its norms of operation as the alliance grew. The purpose for having established borders is that NATO does not want to become entangled in an ongoing battle. Naturally, this encourages rivals to start squabbles in order to exclude potential recruits. And that's exactly what Russia did in 2014 before going all out with their invasion on February 24, 2022. There only appear to be two conceivable methods for Ukraine to meet the no-dispute standard in the short and medium term. First, Ukraine wins decisively and compels Russia to ratify a treaty that declares the country's 2013 boundaries to be, well, Ukrainian. The outcome of Ukraine's offensive is still up in the air, but the kind of victory just outlined is on the high end of expectations, unless Russia descends into a huge civil conflict equal to that which it experienced after entering world conflict worst. After Wagner's thunderous run to Moscow on June 24th, that appeared a bit more conceivable than it had earlier in the summer. Another possibility is in the areas where Ukraine officially relinquished Crimea and possibly more in the east. After that, an agreement between Russia and Ukraine is signed that formally puts an end to the conflict and expressly includes a clause allowing Ukraine to join NATO. In essence, Kiev amputates a foot and possibly a hand in order to protect the remainder of its body. That now doesn't seem very plausible either. Ukraine believes that, NATO or no NATO, it can outlast Russia in this conflict and gradually retake everything it once controlled. In other words, at this point, Kiev is not interested in making concessions. Long-term developments in the Russia situation may be uncertain. Because of this, Ukraine is not only following protocol in this situation. The NATO summits, however, are currently more focused on working with Ukraine than on getting Ukraine on board. Is it easier to enter the EU? As a result, the focus of most of the conversation has switched to Ukraine's membership in the EU. Here, it is assumed that the EU will be more welcoming and offer comparable advantages. The issue of membership accessibility can be discussed later. It should be noted that it is not an easy process either because it also demands unity. In order to qualify for membership in the EU, a country must uphold the rule of law and have a functioning market economy. But as of 2019, Ukraine was a country where it was possible to make a TV show about a history teacher who was caught on camera ranting about how bad corruption is in the nation. After the character becomes popular and unintentionally wins the presidential election, A real-life political party based on the show that has an anti-corruption platform is created, and the actor is then elected president in a sweeping victory. The main distinction is that Turkey is no longer a roadblock, even though Hungary, the other half of Sweden's holdup, is still there. Unanimous EU confirmation that corruption is a thing of the past is a high standard, but it has been reached. In a nutshell, it's a direction that shows promise, but it's not the end of the story. Anyway, let's concentrate on the portion where the EU would supposedly offer similar advantages. How Article 5 protection under NATO would benefit Ukraine as a member. In reality, Article 5 does not specify what would transpire if Ukraine were to fall under its protection while Russia continued its offensive. Instead, the article only instructs member states to take whatever action they feel necessary in the circumstances. Because it was only used once against Afghanistan in conditions that were almost exactly the reverse of a trench war in Europe during World War I, we do not have much of a historical model for how this operates in practice. Whatever the case, it stands to reason that NATO's response would be more rapid, require more resources, lean on its already established unified command, and yes, may very well involve putting troops on the ground. However, let's say that although the EU is still a possibility, NATO is not. Section 42(7). Is the issue with the EU's collective security provisions resolved? Analysts have noted the existence of an Article 5 equivalent in the EU. According to this, if a member state is the victim of an armed aggression on its territory, the other member states shall have towards it an obligation of aid and assistance by all means in their power. It sounds like pretty much everything you would want, aside from the uncomfortable legalese, right? But Ukraine has a different perspective. NATO or nothing. The issue is that they are obligations, just like any other international agreement. No European Union politicians will be detained by the non-existent international police for failing to support Ukraine. As a result, opposing leaders won't just read the rules, assume that collective defense will take place, and decide not to invade. Your adversary needs to believe you if you're going to successfully dissuade them with collective self-defense. The legal complaint I have leveled against the EU treaty, as astute viewers will see, also applies to the North Atlantic Treaty. However, when it comes to plausibility, they are poles apart. What is the name of the EU collective defense provision, to begin with? I have no doubt that many of you are aware of this and care much more about it than the ordinary person, but I'm also prepared to bet the house that even those of you who reside in the EU are in the minority. If you do know, feel free to celebrate in the comments. Due to your merit, multiple option can be helpful for the people who are still there. Still uncertain? Okay, I lied after all. Not any of those. It is stated in Article 42(7). If you find it difficult to recall, it is the definition of life plus a lucky number. That is the only way I can recall it, at least. You shouldn't feel bad about not knowing the label even if you reside in the EU. One is that practically all of you are likewise covered by Article 5. The fact that Sweden is an outlier and is attempting to join NATO is telling. Article 5 is included in the complete language of Article 42(7). Another is that, although it aspires to be more, the EU is largely a trading group. This partnership is not a military one. Because of this, the clause is moved to Article 42(7). The treaty's first page does not contain it. Page 29 contains it. Additionally, it implies that when EU member states vote to accept a new member, they consider economic factors rather than those buried deep inside the treaty. NATO's focus is collective defense, in contrast. In Article 5, you obtain it practically instantly. The first two articles state the obvious: war is evil and peace is good. The third discusses maintaining strong armies on an individual level, and the fourth explains how to convene a meeting. And then the treaty's meat appeared. As a result, the military concerns are the main consideration when members vote on whether to expand. Never mind that Article 5 has been in effect for 3/4 of a century, whereas 42(7) still does not even have the ability to order a drink from a bar. And disregard the fact that it does not apply to the United States. Never mind that neither the UK nor the EU are included. 5 and 42(7) are not equivalent. Russia pauses at 1. The other comes last in the list. That was a lot of criticism of the EU, all right. Why being an EU member still matters. However, let's discuss why it will still be a helpful step for Ukraine even if 42(7) is disregarded. It is important to keep in mind that the reason we are here is because Ukraine joined the EU. It appeared as though Viktor Yanukovych will soon sign a trade agreement with the European Union, which was viewed as a crucial first step toward EU membership in 2013. Then, at the last minute, he decided to join Russia's Eurasian trade bloc, with Russia using force exactly because the country was concerned that Ukraine would choose to join the EU. Independence Square saw protests as a result, and as they say, the rest is history. The EU trade agreement went into force in 2017, one revolution after it was signed, but Ukraine would gain far more benefits from genuine EU membership. All of this matters because trading partners frequently remain such. It's just basic economics. If Ukraine is a trading partner of yours, you both profit from the relationship. Even if you have no direct interest in Ukraine, when a threat from another nation arises, the possible invader is now jeopardizing your own riches. You're more likely to act to defend Ukraine as a result. Sure, more of you will visit Ukraine if it is a trading partner and is located in a visa-free area. Without considering the economics, the related cultural interchange might really make you appreciate Ukraine and desire to safeguard it. Simply increasing the number of EU organizations from outside Ukraine will cause the adversary to halt. Now, if an invasion of Ukraine accidentally results in the deaths of some German, French, and Polish nationals, those governments might not take kindly to it. Therefore, membership is advantageous even if you disregard the EU's duties under 42(7). Additionally, it indirectly advances NATO integration. It's possible that all of Ukraine's new trading partners wish to safeguard their capital. Do you know how to go about doing that well? Well, I do have a response. This is Article 5. That does not immediately address the Turkey issue. However, it does motivate EU member states to bribe Turkey with further incentives. Therefore, Ukraine may have to choose between joining NATO or failing, but EU membership is a helpful rest stop along the way. Please like, share, and subscribe if you liked this video. I'll see you again soon. Be careful.